The ranger was never seen or found by the department after that night. The evening shift. It's a scary story, but I wasn't the type to be easily spooked. I was well trained and knew I was in the wilderness. I used to say that to myself. But that night, I was about to witness something that had been hidden for years. In the middle of the night, I heard growling near my tower. The bushes rustled all around me. I thought it must be a pack of wolves, but after a few minutes I saw something that chilled me to the bone. Two glowing yellow eyes made it easy to see my tower off in the distance. The only sound that remained when I immediately raised my binoculars was the sound of leaves rustling as it vanished into thin air. Although I was shocked, I did not perceive sufficient immediate danger to report it. As per instructions, I remained inside. Then something slammed into my tower. The entire structure shook violently. I quickly looked down as I rushed down to see what had vanished once more. Now I was truly terrified. I felt it. This wasn't a small animal or a wolf. It appeared as though an SUV had struck the tower because of the force of the impact. It was something big that moved incredibly fast. What could it be? I remained alert and monitored each inside movement. Then I heard my ladder moving. My heart suddenly stopped. A massive, black, furry creature was attempting to climb when I shined my flashlight in the direction of the ladder. It had almost reached the top. I was so terrified I froze and fainted. I couldn't move. I wasn't up to this yet. All my training, all my tactics, they were gone. You had the impression that death was slowly approaching. I panicked, grabbing my gun and firing. The bullets missed. The shots stopped the uncontrollable shaking in my hands. It lunged, fell, and then disappeared into the forest. Before it disappeared, it looked back, and I saw it. It appeared to have identified me and promised to return. I wondered how I was going to survive. Then, just a few seconds later, I heard the sound of the other rangers' jeeps arriving. That's why it backed off. It was unafraid of me. The aftermath. That was the near-death experience of my life, and it still gives me nightmares when I think about the Wolf Tower. Now the station and the tower in that location are abandoned. No one ever wants to do a shift there. We put up clear signs and declare that area off-limits. Cross on your own risk. If you cross this fence, we cannot assist you. We put up a strong fence to keep hikers and people from going there, but some stupid teenagers still don't know what's there. They will suffer the consequences if they cross it. I awoke to the sound of dripping rain and the stench of wet earth. My head throbbed. The last thing I remembered was being in our tent with my two friends, laughing over cheap snacks while the storm raged outside. However, I was no longer in the tent. I was lying in the middle of the forest. My gear had vanished despite the storm having passed. No tent, no lanterns, nothing. My phone was in my hand, but the screen flickered. No service. Josh. Daniel? I called out, my voice shaking. No answer. I screamed their names until my throat burned, but the only reply was the wind pushing me deeper into the trees. I didn't even know where I was anymore. No map, no compass, just me, my phone, and the endless forest. The rain hadn't stopped entirely. It came in cold, misty sheets driven by a restless wind. I chose to hold off until morning. Wandering blindly in the dark felt like suicide. That's when I found it. A shipping container was entangled in thick vines and half submerged in dirt. Rusty, weathered, close to being swallowed whole by the forest. I pushed through the undergrowth and stepped inside. It smelled of metal and dust, but it was dry. For a moment, I felt safe. However, safety in the woods is never assured. The rain stopped all at once. The wind died. The forest stopped talking. No crickets, no owls, not even the whisper of leaves. Then I listened to it. A low, guttural moan somewhere in the distance that followed by a deep, animal-like growl. Something moved behind a tree. I was looked at by two bright red eyes. My chest became tighter. My legs felt heavy. I backed into the container, piled branches and leaves at the entrance until it was completely covered. I tried not to breathe as I sat there in the gloom. The growl came again, closer this time. After that, in the damp dirt, I heard footsteps squelching. I peeked through the small gaps in the branches. A number. Tall. Thin. Two long legs and arms that seemed far too long for its body. Its movements were jerky, unnatural, like a puppet tugged on invisible strings. The thing then spoke, but not in its own voice. It mimicked our voices. The conversations we had in the tent just hours before. My friend's laughter. My own words. I froze. It was playing with me. Metal groaned above me. It was climbing the container. A heavy thud landed on the roof, making it shake. I didn't move. Lacked breath. The force with which my heart slammed against my ribs hurt. After what felt like forever, the thing stopped. The forest sounds returned. The rain began again. I went outside when it was morning. The mud bore strange footprints, like those of a deer or horse, but standing on two legs. In the hope of finding my friends, I kept moving. One of them was hanging from a pine tree, and I found it. He had been torn in half, and his organs were missing. His lifeless eyes stared down at me. I wanted to throw up. My chest hurt. My knees gave way. I searched for my other friend, praying he was alive. After a few hours, I found him in the same condition. I felt like screaming. I wanted to tear my own skin off. This was my fault. They had wanted to go to a water park. Stupid, harmless fun. But I wanted adventure. I wanted quiet. The mountains. The deep pines of Sweden. I now understand why certain quiet locations are quiet. Eventually, I stumbled onto a narrow path. I followed it until I came across a backpack and our torn tent. Inside our map and a gun. Only one magazine. I gained courage I didn't deserve by holding it. I walked toward what I thought was the road. But it followed me, always just far enough back that I couldn't see it clearly. Sometimes it moved above me in the trees. I finally saw it openly observing me. I screamed at it, rage boiling over my fear. I'm getting out of here. You hear me, you ugly skull-faced freak. It chased me. My legs burned. My lungs were as hot as fire. When I couldn't run anymore, I turned to face it. It wanted me to die like my friends, torn apart and humiliated. I wouldn't give it that satisfaction. I raised the gun to my temple. That's what you want, I shouted. It stopped, growled, stared, and I smiled. Because for the first time, I wasn't afraid. It was gone once more when I opened my eyes again. No sound, no movement. I stumbled on until I found the highway. A truck driver picked me up and dropped me at a gas station, where I called the police. They never found my friends' bodies. I made it home, but the nightmare never left. My name is Frink, and I am employed as a park ranger at Ranger Station 3 in the Florida Big Cypress National Preserve. To make a long story short, I ended up in the forest's most dangerous spot, the shaky fire lookout we call Wolf Tower. At this location, numerous rangers have vanished without a trace. My colleagues had a stern piece of advice for me. Never look down when the moonshine is brighter than usual. They either denied their knowledge or simply stated that they did not want to frighten the new guy when I inquired as to why. However, some locals claimed that the tale, which was well known in the area and sounded like a creepy fairy tale or pasta, was true. Others said it was just a tale our colleges told to test and scare the fresh recruits. I, for one, was one of them. The mythology. It happened a long time ago. A brave ranger was doing a night shift in this very tower. He heard a frantic radio scream, the scream of a lost hiker on the full moon night. The hiker was being pursued by a large, furry animal with eyes that shone at night. It was now after him, having already killed his friend in their tent. In an effort to assist, the ranger provided the hiker with directions and the location of the watchtower. The hiker, fortunately, was successful in finding the tower, but he brought something even worse and evil with him. The ranger went down to help, but he also saw the man was badly bitten and bleeding at the same time. He began treating the wounded man after assisting him in ascending the tower. But before the night was over, something awful happened inside that small cabin. Both of them vanished. Later, other rangers discovered blood, flesh, and deep claw marks on the walls, but no bodies. No one knows what happened. Sometimes late at night, when the wind dies and the world goes silent, I feel it watching me again. I also pray that the storm will never end. Something is haunting the animals out here. I don't know exactly what it is, but ever since I was a kid, everyone in town has said the same thing. Get home before it gets dark. Stay away from the fence line. We live in Rhododendron, Oregon. Small city, very still, surrounded by vast, interminable woods. However, the people who live here have no fear of the forest. They're afraid of what's behind the fence. There's a long, splintered wooden fence that stretches around the town. It is never crossed. No one talks about what's beyond it. People also don't panic when someone goes missing. They just say, must have been an outsider, because they didn't know the rule. Never cross the wall. I was late that night. My friends, they don't believe in the old stories. They make fun of it. Stay out too long. Make fun of the rules. But I think it's me. because the path that runs right next to that fence is where I walk home. Additionally, something felt off that night. The road was too quiet. The cold wind. They had the impression that the trees were leaning in to observe me. I kept my eyes down, counted my steps, did not look at the fence. But then, I smelled something. Blood. Rotten meat. Thick in the air. I turned around. Blood. Spattered across the ground, inside the fence line. Then, I heard it. A low sigh. A cow in peril. It didn't even sound real. More like an engine that is broken and clinging to life. I wanted to leave. It was already dark. I didn't want to help. However, a part of me said, go check. So I did. I crossed the fence just a little, and that's when I saw it. Blood. Everywhere. Organs. Flesh. Like something tore it apart just moments ago. I then observed it. I had never seen such a massive black creature leap into the woods and then vanish. Fast. Silent. I froze. But what I saw next was worse. The animal. Still alive. Barely. The stomach was completely torn out. You could see inside it. Its eyes were pleading. Then I saw them. 2 yellow eyes. Glowing. Observing me from behind the bush. There was a low growl that filled the air. Deep. Hungry. I didn't hold out. I ran. Back toward the fence. Behind me, I heard it. Heavy footsteps pounding the dirt. It was chasing me. I had the impression that my heart was about to break. But I survived. Bypassed the fence. As I scrambled over, something slashed my chest. On the other side, I rolled and hit the ground. I then circled back. It was standing there. Tall. Massive. On 2 legs. Covered in black fur. Pointed ears. Sharp teeth. It had almost human-like arms. It wasn't a creature. However, it was also not a man. Something else was the case. Something previous. It was perched on the fence. Growling. Clawing. But it didn't cross. It might have. It ought to have. But something was stopping it. Like the fence wasn't just wood. As if it was designed to prevent that from entering. When that happened, I realized. The tales were true. The fence wasn't just a boundary. It was a roadblock. Something sacred. Or cursed. Possibly a spell. I don't know. But I ran home. Bleeding. Shaking. Didn't tell anyone. Just locked every door and every window. That thing was not the cause of the scratch. The barbed wire was to blame. Also, praise God. However, I kept the cut. Because when someone says that again, it won't be true. I'll show them. There's something living beyond that fence. It hunts in the dark. It's fast. It's hungry. And the only thing keeping it away from us is that old, broken fence. Therefore, if you ever find yourself walking near the woods in rhododendron, do not cross the fence. Maintain the course. Keep your head down. And if you hear something calling you, don't look. Don't stop. Don't turn around. Because it continues to exist. Waiting. If you like this story, give it a like and subscribe. It's free, and it enables me to continue creating these spooky tales for you. Stay safe out there, and don't cross the fence. Good night.